All right.
No,
I feel like we need to have like an introductory story for this part of the broadcast.
Upon link.
That one's all good. Pop the link in Discord. I just saw the message that Heidi wasn't going to be able to join us. I think it's the first one she's missed. Hi, Heidi.
No. Which Heidi? Because I know that one was having troubles. I was just general. Where's the schedule? Oh, we're live. I keep forgetting.
Just like tinkering in the back end of stuff.
Did you? Okay. Oh, darn. I'm trying to paste this into the. Yeah, everyone.
It's the first like full minute of technical.
Yeah, sorry about this. If people are watching right now.
Yeah, people on the rewatch though, it's worse.
Oh yeah.
You need to like bring the dogs in or something and just do that.
Okay, I added everyone with a link.
Perfect.
If you're here, say hello.
Oh gosh. I seriously slept in so long today.
Amy.
Oh, I can't see anything.
Yeah.
Ruh-roh. Oh, there we go. Hey, Amy. No, I was on comments, but then it didn't go.
Hello, how's everyone doing? This glorious January. It's very snowy here. We've got like a serious snowstorm. Hello.
We had snow. Today's just gray. I don't know about you, but like it was sunny here yesterday and it felt like a revelation. Like we haven't had a sunny day here in what feels like forever.
Yeah. We're just doing a little song and dance while we wait on people. General.
Amy, it's so funny. I saw like my Instagram is full of people in the UK being like, it's snowing. No. And there's like a tiny bit of snow. And I'm like, yeah.
I guess I always figured that snow was really a part of the UK. Like I didn't realize that it was something that was rare with the weather over there.
So uncommon. It's like the West Coast, well, in Canada here, right? Like Vancouver gets snow, but they don't, like they have what's that called? When you're right beside the ocean, it's not lake effect. Anyway, it's like a moderated temperature, right? Like the ocean moderates the temperature, so it's harder to get it cold enough for snow.
Do you get a lot of like lake effect snow from Erie?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And well, like Huron, because the prevailing winds come across from like Lake Huron, kind of across to where I am. Huh. Yeah, Amy, and I think the thing is too, like, you know, I joke about it, but like in Canada, we're clearly, not all of Canada, but most of us, like we're clearly prepared for snow too. Like we have a snowplow industry and we all have shovels and boots and whatever. So in the UK, when you don't get it very often, like I get that nobody is prepared for it, you know?
It's like I saw a really funny video. I think BuzzFeed did it not too long ago, where they were like showing people from California things that we have to deal with snow and asking them to guess like what the purpose of it was. And one of the things was cat litter. And like, you know, if you're from here, you know that cat litter is for if there's ice underneath your tire, you put cat litter down on it.
Yep.
So that you can get out. And none of them knew. Like it was all like just wild speculation about like what people would use cat litter for with snowstorms.
I mean, I have to say, like, I've never had to use cat litter in my life, but my car was like, I went to work. I am only in the office once a week right now because Ontario's got new restrictions on whatever. But I came out the one day I was in, we have a snowstorm all day, and I came out to the parking lot and there was like a giant snowdrift in the parking lot up against my car. And I'm like, okay, well, this is going to take a while.
Lake Champlain. Oh, I don't really know anything.
Oh yeah, you're in the Northeast, aren't you, Ron?
We get like northern Indiana gets a lot of lake effect snow off of Lake Michigan. So like in the Northeast, there's a lot of lake effect snow.
I feel like we just get a lot of snow. Like this year, honestly, we've had one of the easiest winters that I can remember. Like I haven't had to shovel very much. There hasn't been any like disastrous weather days yet.
This has been the worst snowstorm so far. We got like 6 inches overnight, and we're supposed to get another 4 as the day goes on.
Oh,
So
jeez.
it's quite a bit, but
That's
I like
enough.
it.
Like
Yeah.
those are the oh, that was I on
Hey,
Christmas Day I shoveled like 3 or 4 times. That was the most we had.
wow. I hate
Yeah.
shoveling snow. I would literally take any ass whooping over to shoveling snow. Like,
I like I went online to figure out how to track shoveling on your like Apple Watch as like
Mhm.
activity. And there's all these people that were like, it's just part of your daily life. That's not exercise. And I'm like, oh honey, like I'm tracking this as exercise.
That's definitely exercise.
Like I'm not doing all this work and not getting the credit for it.
Especially when it's a pretty significant amount of snow. That's quite a bit of like lifting and throwing.
Oh yeah. Like I
And then
definitely throw out my back.
if there's wind, then that's like counteracting
It's a
all the
whole
things
other
you're trying to
thing.
do.
Yeah.
Doo-doo-doo. I like how I get email notifications that I'm live on my channel. I know.
I guess just in case, can you imagine though if you're like sitting at work one day and you get a notification that your channel's live? Like I
Oh, I
would
know.
I'd be freaking
Horrifying.
out. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
All
That's
right, shall we do
shall
you want
we
to get
start?
into it?
Yeah,
You have the book. Do you want to talk
I do.
about the book?
Have this really nice cover. Look at that.
It's so tiny. I only read it on ebook, so I don't really know how short it
No,
was.
not only is it quite tiny, the font size pretty big. So this was our cozy mystery, written by Peter Ellis Peters in the 70s, and this is following the adventures of a monk named Cadfael, who is definitely not a virgin, and he. Uh, the monastery that he's at, basically what ends up happening is that some of the people in the monastery want to retrieve the bones of a saint in a Welsh village to take to their monastery for fame, glory, tourism. And some of them start receiving holy divine visions, that they have the favor of this saint to retrieve these bones, and so Cadfael and many others are sent on a mission to retrieve it with the blessing of the prince and the bishops. When they get there, though, they do not count for the resistance that they meet amongst the Welsh villagers, who do not want them to take the bones. And the main leader of this resistance is a man named Riastart, or however you pronounce it, a local nobleman with quite a bit of influence. And he ends up really leading the villagers in resistance to this, and then is very quickly killed with an arrow that is distinct to one of the suitors of his daughters. So there's many people who now have some motive for wanting this man dead, and it is up to our worldly monk Cadfael to uncover the truth. I just want to say, before we really get into it, that I loved this book. Like, I loved it so much more than I think it really had any right to be loved. I just adored everything about it. I'm definitely going to read the sequels.
I think it can be so hard. I said to Chris this morning, like on chat before we started the video, and I was just like, I am sometimes worried about when you love a book so much, it becomes harder to talk about it and articulate why. And so I guess we'll see how it goes through this. I liked the book quite a bit. I didn't love it. I think I said in Discord, I will probably pick up later books in the series at some point, just to come back to the world and whatever. I'm not desperate to read them like right away, but yeah, it was a good pick. Like I'm proud of us, man.
I agree with Elise about it being nostalgic. So, like, I read quite a bit of like cozy mysteries when I was in high school. I think I've mentioned this before, but I really loved like the Elizabeth Peters novels, and I really loved the Laurie R. King novels, and I really liked Marcia Muller. There were quite a few that I read, and most of them were actually contemporary. And so this was like really different, and then it goes back so much deeper into history, and so it has a lot more like atmosphere work that it has to do for the reader, which it did really well in my opinion. I thought the writing in this book was really good. I will say, like, the character development, like, not really there. I mean, Cadfael is not a particularly, at least in this installment of the series, didn't come off as a particularly super complex man. You don't get a lot of like his internal emotional workings. A lot of times, like, with these kind of sleuthy novels. Um, the sleuth tends to have like some sort of like really complex backstory that kind of urges them to want to solve crimes. That doesn't really exist in this at all. It's definitely a crime solver by convenience more than anything. But I just loved it. Like, I loved everything about it. I thought it was hilarious. Like, it was one of the funniest books I've read in a long time. There were like, I was cackling to myself last night while I was reading it. I don't know why I loved it so much.
You're
I
like
really
2 a.m. cackling to yourself
I
about.
I was up so late last night, just dying laughing.
Yeah, it's I agree with like all of that, and it's funny. I think we all pointed out the commentary on page 2, and it comes around again. And it's like the funniest part of the book for me was like just so that we remember that he was a ladies' man.
Yes.
Throughout Europe on his way to the Crusades, and I think there was an interesting point made in Discord very early on that his having participated in holy war and having experience outside of the monastery, outside of England, whatever, makes him an outsider in some way, and also sets him up to kind of like be this nosy character, like Elise is saying, like, and Amy both, that he's more curious about the world. He's more willing to think outside of the box, and kind of throw himself into this investigative position. And I think it doesn't help that like the daughter of the murder victim was like a snack, and he kind of wanted, like, if he wasn't a monk, he would have been all over that. Like, that's an interesting little aside, I guess, for it. But yeah, and I think we said in Discord too, like, I would love to know more about his life before becoming a monk. Like, I would read the heck out of a book like that gives him all that backstory.
Yeah, I would too. And I mean, this is the first installment in the series that has like 14 or 15 titles in it. So I'm sure that there is probably a lot more character development as it goes along. And you learn a lot more about Cadfael. But yeah, I love that aspect of the story. I love Brother John. He is probably my favorite side character. I liked him because he had all these really funny asides to Cadfael, like constantly whispering in his ear, and just like all these observations about the other monks that were just really, really funny. I also really liked oh my gosh, my brain.
And the names I can't remember.
Yeah, there's so many names, but I just liked all of the monks. I will say the mystery itself, like, I don't know. Like, I don't know if I wasn't just super invested in the mystery or if I was just like there for the atmosphere and dialogue. But the mystery itself I didn't care too much about, and I wasn't utterly surprised by any means that it was, at the end of the day, the monk who was having visions. Like, ooh, you mean that this saint didn't want you guys to take her bones? I also thought like the ending of the book, like just as far as like funny things that happened, is like at the end of the book. Oh, by the way, obviously we're spoiling everything. So
yeah.
At the end of the book, when they've obviously stuffed the evil priest, how do you say his name?
I don't know. I don't have
Columnus or whatever.
Yeah, I feel lost.
And when they stuffed his body into the reliquary, and all the people like go to pick up the reliquary, and they're like, "Oh my gosh, this lady's bones are so heavy!" And he stands up and they're like, "She gives weight to the very assignment that we have here today." And like everyone's just like, "Yep, that works." I was dying laughing. Columbanus.
Amazing.
Yeah. Anyway, I thought that aspect of the book was just hysterical. You know what this book reminded me of? And please, in the chat, if you have seen this movie, let me know. It reminded me a lot of the movie Lady Hawk, which if you guys haven't seen it.
Somebody will have seen it.
Yeah, please say. It's a fantasy movie starring Michelle Pfeiffer and the guy from Ferris Bueller's Day Off, whose name I've completely forgotten. Anyway, and it's this like sword and sorcery with like an evil bishop as the villain. And like, as far as like plot and the fact that it's a fantasy, like it has nothing to do with plot wise, but like just the earnest cheesiness of it all reminded me so much. Okay, thank you. Reminded me so much of this, and like kind of like the dialogue. Like there was something about the way the dialogue was done, the atmosphere that just really put me in mind of like watching Lady Hawk. I don't know who is Rutger Hauer the guy that plays the bishop. Yeah, the soundtrack to Lady Hawk is hilarious. There's the scene if you look on like movieclips.com, where the guy from Ferris Bueller's Day Off is like fighting off these people who are trying to snatch him, like he's some thief or something in the movie, I can't remember. And the fight sequence that ensues with the like 80s pop synth soundtrack in the background is probably one of the funniest things you'll ever watch in your life.
We're all gonna end up watching this stupid movie.
He's the knight. Oh yeah. Okay. So yeah, I loved this book probably more than it deserved.
Well, and I think that's something that's interesting to investigate. So the cozy mystery element to me, I don't read a lot of cozy mysteries. I've read a few. And to me, I think Ron said earlier in the chat, like talking about it as a palate cleanser. And I think for me, they function in the same way as like a romance book, where it's so easy to pick one up and read it in the course of an afternoon and just like bust out a book and have a complete story, because they're fast enough paced, but you don't have to worry about getting anxiety about whatever the crime is, etc. So that's interesting to me. But yeah, I've never cared in any cozy mystery I've ever read. And I, again, haven't done a lot of them, but I've never cared about who did it. I've never cared about actually solving the crime. I think the politics of this group of monks traveling from an English monastery into Wales to prove that they have the right to remove these saints' bones and take them back for their own like tourism gains. That stuff was all like more interesting to me, and just like the politics of the town, or the relationships between the characters in the town and everything was more interesting to me than actually setting up the whodunit and following the investigation, which honestly didn't even feel like it was a very passive investigation. It was almost like, well, like there's a couple times where he's like setting a plot in motion, like he's trying to catch something, but it felt very passive.
Delegator.
Yeah, he sure is. He's got like his people.
He's always like, see you, Ned. Here's what I want you to do to investigate this.
And then chapter break. Yeah, so that we don't know what the thing is. But it was interesting. I think you said, Chris, and I commented on it in Discord as well, was in many books, in any mystery context, we typically follow like our lead detective, etc., and we get their point of view and we learn what they learn when they learn it. And in this case, it felt like we were doing that. And then there was a couple awkward breaks where all of a sudden we were getting scenes that he could not see himself, that gave us more information in some way. And it was just a bizarre, I did find it a little bit jarring as a reader to be like, wait, and now we get this perspective, but it was interesting.
In the 60s and 70s, and like I don't read a ton of books from the 60s and 70s, but something I have noticed when I pick them up, and this goes across genre fiction, literary fiction, is that the narration style that was popular then was much more omniscient. Now, pretty much whenever we pick up a book, we're expecting a third person limited or a first person. It's very rare to get third person omniscient narration anymore. And even if you get like multiple perspectives, each perspective is a third person limited perspective.
Right.
But like third person omniscient used to be a lot more popular. And this definitely had that. You felt like you were getting a bird's eye view. The unnamed narrator of the book definitely had a distinct storytelling voice, which is not what you expect from a mystery novel. Typically the mystery novel, the voice of the narrator is the voice of the sleuth, is the perspective that you're getting because you're kind of solving the crime alongside him or her.
Yeah.
And that was definitely a very different bent to it, but also I think having it where it had this kind of distinct storytelling voice allowed for it to kind of go for the atmosphere.
Yeah, and I think like Ron's saying in the chat too, like it's that it didn't let you know that early on. It felt like a more modern story in a lot of ways, and then you get to the point where it's like, oh, now we get this other perspective. Like it wasn't right from the beginning, I think.
Yeah. Sorry, brain. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed all those aspects of it, but it made different choices than a lot of mysteries. Definitely had an older style to it. I'm definitely going to continue reading. I don't know when the last book in the series was published.
Yeah, and I don't remember how old, like I think when we chose the book, I wasn't super aware of how old the book was. Like I knew it was an older title. I don't think I had placed it as far back as it actually was. And that's a good point. I have no idea when this series ended.
It ended in 1994. So it was published over a series of 17 years, and I kind of wonder if the writing and narration style changed over that time, to be honest, because
That
it's
could be.
quite a significant amount of time to publish a mystery series over.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Yeah, this is the thing, right? With books, I think in the past couple of live shows we've done, we've gone into them knowing that there's been quite a lot of stuff that we haven't enjoyed, and we've got a lot of like gripes to have about the book. But in this case, like I think partly because it was short and there wasn't a lot to it. It felt very I don't want to say that there wasn't any like depth to the plot or anything, but it's a very like quick, easy read. And so there isn't a lot to dig into. And in other cases, I might be more upset about the lack of character development. But in this case, it didn't seem to really matter because I was just all in on the setting and the time period.
Yes, I agree, Amy. I don't know if it bothered me though, but it's definitely something I noticed that the characters got described very quickly, like that hair, color, body,
which is
eyes.
stuff I don't remember, right?
Yeah,
I'm not going to place, but again, I wonder if that's more a product of its time. Like an
yeah, I think
author would be comfortable spending more time on those sorts of details.
yes, and especially in the beginning when you were introduced to all of the bishops, I found it difficult to remember all of those bishops.
Yep.
But then, like, I kind of just got their names down. Like, I just kind of acclimated myself to it.
Yeah, I think, again, we've talked about this in past live shows too. Like the nature of how we read these books is different than perhaps how we would read other books that we're reading like in our life. And this one, I started off reading it at home and then I switched to reading it like on my lunch breaks at work. And then I kind of barreled through the last two sections very quickly. But having that large cast of characters early on, I definitely, because I wasn't reading it quickly, like I was spreading it out, I just was like, there are so many people and I don't really know who's who. And like, it was a bit of a mess for me at the beginning. But again, I think if I was just reading this on my own, I would have like picked it up, read half the book and been fine with it. So it's just, you know, and we talked like you finished the book, you binged it all last night. I finished it this past week. And I think in my brain, I don't want to start books that I know are going to be quick too early in the month because I know we're going to have to do a live show about it. And I don't want to forget all the details. But at the same time, then it feels a little bit panicky at the end of the month. And then I think it really just changes the pace and how I read books in a different way.
Yeah, I mean, I'm definitely not going to like sit out and like binge a literary fiction novel the way I did this one.
No.
Yeah, at all. But this one I was definitely reading just for the atmosphere and the dialogue and the, in a sense, the mystery, even though the mystery I thought was kind of obvious. I mean, I will say like Robert, the prior, he's definitely established as like this obvious villain who's supposed to be the red herring. But yeah. Yes, Thomas, there is. It's on the Discord, but I should probably start posting it on the YouTube community in case some people don't want to be in a Discord, which I understand.
I was thinking that as well. And we should probably put another link in just for people to join because we're always having new people. Like every month we've got a couple new people that pop in. So we do have
cross posting.
Yeah, exactly. And at the end of this stream, we will review what we have coming up for the next 2 months and announce our next 3 picks for, what is it, April, May, and June?
Yep.
So that'll be something to do in a little bit. But yes, there is a list. See, this is the thing. I feel like I don't have a lot to say about this book.
I don't have a ton to say about this book either because it's short, it's sweet, it's exactly I think what people want in a cozy mystery. And I think people, it's funny that you brought up that you read this in the same way that you were reading romance because I was actually thinking about the fact that I think that what cozy mysteries and oftentimes what mysteries in general offer to readers is similar to what romance is offering to readers. People read romance because they want a happily ever after, and people read mysteries because they know that in the end the murder is going to be solved. There's going to be some sort of satisfying answer to the question. Yeah,
and I think so. I'm a librarian by trade, and part of the so education for librarians is bizarre in a lot of ways we won't get into, but I did take a course and we were talking about reader's advisory and why people read specific genres and what they hope to get out of it. And they really break down the mystery genre into its component parts because there's like the cozy mysteries like this. There is like the detective mystery where I'm thinking more like like any of, I don't even want to name series. There's so many of them where you have a lead detective who has a continuing story over a number of books, but in each book there is a mystery to solve and it gets solved and there's like a conclusion. There's like the psychological thrillers where who done it is not the question, it's why they did it, because typically in those books you'll get the dual perspective of the person trying to solve the crime and the person who committed the crime kind of going back and forth, and it's more like a cat and mouse kind of thing. And it's interesting, like you said, I think there's people who read cozy mysteries regularly really are looking to get that, like the comfy cozy the atmosphere and the setting are like such big things. And it's interesting to me how popular this series I think was, considering its setting. Like if you told me that you're going to write a book about like 12th century English monks solving crime, like it's just a little bit ludicrous in some ways, but it does end up being very like I would say 12th century English living is not cozy, right? For the vast majority of people living in the time period, there's very little cozy happening.
Well, it didn't try and really like distinguish itself as a 12th century book.
No.
Like if you told me that this was set in the 1500s instead of the 1200s, I would have just believed you.
Yep.
You know,
because not a lot changes, right? Like it's
I don't think there's a lot of distinguishing factors that would make you think this was a 12th century book outside of the kind of like king prince perspective. Like, I mean, you know,
and the politics of like religion at the time, right? Like when you hit the later, like even the 15th, 16th century for sure, right? When everything changes in England and religion. But at this point, I think it's set so far back that the coziness kind of comes from a bit of isolation. Like there's these small communities, like Shrewsbury would have been quite small settlement. Then they traveled to Wales, which would have been even more like kind of rural and more of a dissociated state. And so like I think the coziness kind of comes from that like rustic rural isolation, which is, again, it just like strikes me as odd that that's a thing that people really like cottoned onto and like liked the cozy aspect of that. And yes, Amy, I found it hilarious.
Yes, I loved that part, especially because like Engelard acted like like killing him. He barely touched him. Dead. Neck snap. Like, it was so funny to me. That was like, I don't know why this book cracked me up so much, but I thought almost every page I was cackling. But that's killed me.
Slapstick comedy where he accidentally kills the guy at the end. It's just like,
just hilarious.
Really?
And the fact that they like left his clothes like just draped. And like everyone just like walked in and like, well, clearly an act of God has done this. Oh
it
my
just
God.
like all wraps up. But I liked the idea that doing the thing that is like right is different than doing the thing that is legal or whatever. Like there is an understanding of humanity here instead of just like, I think in a more modern setting, there would be more focus on like the rule of law. And here it's more like the law and justice was done as decided by our lead character, as opposed to decided by the church or the state or whatever. And
also decided by this, sheriff who's evidently fairly convincible to go villagers.
Like the comments here are hilarious. Yeah, I agree. Like it was a little bit, did I say this in Discord? I can't remember. I think I did. There's this thing that happens at the end of old Star Trek episodes where there's like a slide whistle ending where it's like a funny wink to camera where everything wraps up and they all like kind of smirk at each other and then the ship like goes off into space. Like this is that ending for me, where it was like everything wraps up in a little bow. It's a little bit comical, but it all kind of worked out. And now we're just like off onto our next adventure, which is funny. Ron, I have read part of The Name of the Rose. I have it on my shelves. I've never finished it, but I had a teacher in like grade 8 English. We had to watch it, like the adaptation. He was like obsessed with The Name of the Rose. It's such a bizarre thing, but I've never made it through the whole book. I can see the similarities. It's, I mean, set in a different time and place roughly. But yeah, definitely more literary. It's not cozy. I found it quite dense, but
it's big, isn't it?
It's quite, it's long. But yeah, no, I haven't finished it yet.
Yep, the whole thing cracked me up. I'm trying to think if I had any other like real big thoughts on this book. No, to be honest, I just didn't. I just enjoyed the hell out of it. Like, I'm definitely going to read more. It's definitely going to be like a go-to palate cleanser for me. I'm probably going to like get the ebooks from the library instead of spending money, because the old covers are actually quite hard to find, and they've got these new ones like this one I picked out, but like.
But they're all the same, right? Like they're roughly
they're all
the
the
same, but in
same
different
basically
colors.
looking,
Yeah.
and I don't feel like dropping coin for like 14 of these. So
No, and that's I mean, I'm going through the library copies of pretty much everything I don't own at this point, but yeah, I could see that's the other thing, right? Like just getting copies of this. There's so many, right? That's another like I think thing about the genre is the series are so long running. Those Elizabeth Peters, I don't even know how many books there are. There's so many.
Have you read any of them?
I read the first one.
Okay, I love them.
I loved Egypt, so I was all over. Oh gosh, Henry's awake.
If anybody has read the Marie Brennan Memoirs of Lady Trent novels,
I have also read those.
They remind me a lot of a fantasy version of Elizabeth Peters.
Yeah, I can see that. I liked those. I stopped read. I've read the first 3 or 4. And there's only 5.
Yeah, there's not many. I liked the first one quite a bit, but I didn't love the second one, so I kind of like hopped off a little bit. But I want to go back to it. But yeah, I love Elizabeth Peters, and like this did kind of like get me back into wanting to read more cozy mysteries again, because like it used to be like such a staple of my reading.
Yeah,
I think I own Labyrinth of Drakes actually, Ron. I don't know.
Is that the 4th or the 5th? And is it the last? I know she's written other stuff since. Like, I think she's done different. She started a new series or something.
So there's 5 that she's written, and then there's a 6th book that follows the granddaughter of Lady Trent, and then since then she's written a novella called Driftwood, which I think is part of something different, and then she's part of the author duo that just put out The Mask of Mirrors, which is like the biggest.
Oh, okay.
Release.
Yeah.
4th 5. I do own that one, I think.
I did. The covers were stunning. Can we just take a moment for those like absolutely beautiful covers?
Beautiful covers.
Yeah.
She really got lucky with those. But yeah, like I really want to get back to cozy mysteries now. Is the 6th one, Elise? Is the 6th one the one that follows the granddaughter? Do let me know. I'd be interested. Yeah, the M.A. Carrick. I just got Mask of Mirrors. I'm intrigued to start it. It's been a while since I've read like a super new release fantasy and like been part of the conversation as it was coming out. So I want to get to that.
That's like a thing that you really notice on BookTube, I find, is like, are you part of the first cohort of people who got on a train, or are you doing like the hype has died down, it's been 4 years and now I'm going to get to it?
That's usually what I do. I tend not to read a ton of like super new releases, especially super new fantasy releases. Okay, so the 6th one is one that follows the granddaughter. Okay.
My dog has woken up and now he's banana pants. Oh my gosh, this is going to be a disaster. No, Henry, no. Oh my gosh. Okay.
Well, now you have to show us the baby.
I can't even. So the camera that this is on is not the camera that's on my laptop. Oh gosh, come here, Henry. I don't know if I can. Can you lift your face up? Oh, hello.
Oh.
I can't. I can barely get him in.
We got the snoot. That's the important part.
Yeah. Okay. Go lay down, please.
Anyway.
I
think we've kind of exhausted the book. Do we kind of want to talk about our next picks?
I feel like we could talk about our next picks for quite a while. So like, let's just jump to that. If anybody has anything else they really want to talk about with Morbid Taste for Bones, leave it in the chat and we'll loop back around.
With one last thing to add about the book.
Yeah.
With the title, A Morbid Taste for Bones, I was expecting, like, even though I knew it was a cozy mystery, I was still expecting something really dark. I was like, or maybe even cannibalism. Like, that was kind of in the back of my mind when I heard the title of it, but nope. Not really.
No, and like I feel like that's okay. So that's another whole bent this series could have taken. It wouldn't be cozy, but like the shadowy corners of old, like damp, dark churches. Like there's a lot that could happen here that would be super creepy, but is clearly not the bent that the series is taking. But like I would be down for that because all of them have kind of it's bizarre. Somebody nibbling on a bone in the corner, right? Like that. That's what I was envisioning.
There's a mystery series that kind of is dark, and you just reminded me of it, but I've completely forgotten the name. I'll look it up later.
Amazing. Yeah.
Okay. Do we want to talk about the next picks? I'll let you talk about February, March.
Yeah. So
good for you.
So here's the thing. When our government decided that perhaps, like, we all thought there was going to be like a super strict lockdown, and it turns out there wasn't, everybody at the library like went ham on their holds. And we were all watching, like, the hold lists were insane for stuff, and everybody was freaking out. And I was like, crap, I better put the next 2 books on hold for book club. So I've just had these since like the beginning of January. And I'm just going to keep renewing them. So in February, we're reading A Foreign Country by Charles Cumming. This book, I just reread the blurb for it, and it follows, there's a couple of different like murders and disappearances. And then the woman who is due to take over as the first female chief of MI6 disappears without a trace. And the only chance that they have of getting her back is a disgraced former MI6 officer who's been tossed out of the service, but has like a redemption opportunity for himself if he can just find her. So this is like a spy thriller novel. I am knowing how many of us read for character, I'm worried. I'm just going to say I'm worried.
See, I don't know if I am actually, because I think a lot of those series like really delve into it. So like my mom was obsessed with the oh my gosh, I've completely forgotten the name. This is like so embarrassing how many times I've done this. But she was obsessed with this really long running spy thriller series.
Mm-hmm.
I might just text her and see if she'll respond to me. But she was like absolutely obsessed with them, and that was why she loved them, was because of the main spy and like learning his backstory.
I hope so, but I don't think that over like, a series of how many books? Like we're only going to get 1 book.
That's true, but I mean, she loved him from like the get-go, and it was a pretty long-running series. It was a really famous like spy thriller series.
I'm expecting this to be extremely plotty. It sounds like the bulk of the book is going to happen in France and possibly Egypt. Oh, France and Tunisia. A shocking secret and conspiracy, political catastrophe, it's that kind of book. So yeah. Amy, I think that's the risk with any spy book, is the like inevitable comparison to James Bond. And I think it's going to be less like that and more like gritty. This guy has like the thing is going to be what did he do to get himself kicked out of the service? And why is he the only person that can like redeem it? I don't know. So I would never really pick up books like this on my own. And if I did, I don't think I think, Chris, I don't even know how we found this book. I think you suggested it. Like you were doing some Googling and found it.
It was
and
on quite a few lists of like best spy thrillers.
I'm excited then. Like I'm going to give it like, it's not that I think it's going to be bad. It's just not going to be a thing that I typically read, which I guess is kind of the point of book club. But yeah, so that'll be February, and I will later today. I will post the channels for this book in Discord because it's February 1st tomorrow, surprisingly. So I will pop those open so that we can start talking about it at the beginning of the month, and then in March. We're reading Priest Daddy by Patricia Lockwood, which I can't.
This is the one I'm most excited about.
I am really excited about it too. This was like a super buzzy book when it came out. I know a lot of people who read it and really liked it. I was chatting with my friends, like some of my IRL friends, about this book because you and I do have conversations about what we want to pick for book club and just like what types of content we're kind of okay with having, just because we don't want to alienate or turn people off of books. And Priest Daddy definitely has a little bit more content that we thought was like worthwhile, but I think we definitely we're thinking that it might not be for everybody, but I think every book that we've picked so far has not been for everybody. So that's okay. It's fine. And people can skip months if they want to, but.
And if you like Priest Daddy, which I'm really expecting that this one, at least I think for some of us who come from more of like the lit fic side of things, are going to really enjoy it. And she has a novel coming out this summer, I believe, which is a pretty hot ticket item. Also, I'd just like to say I texted my mom about what that spy thriller series she loved was, and it was the Mitch Rapp series by Vince Flynn.
Oh yeah, I see, and that's the thing. I know all the author names from working at the library, but I don't know like their series, like the main character or anything. So, no, I'm really excited for this. The Lockwood came up. That novel came up on NetGalley recently. I didn't request it, but we have it on order at the library already. And I think partly I have this weird thing in my brain where I can't read for somebody like Patricia Lockwood, like this book is the book in my mind, and I can't read anything else of hers until I've read this one. It's like a bizarre thing that my brain does.
And that's how I feel about Susanna Clark, because Piranesi came out and like everybody's reading Piranesi, and I'm like, I can't bring myself to read it until I've read
I did it.
Age of Mr. Norrell.
Yeah, because one is 900 pages and one is like 200.
Mm-hmm. So you did read Piranesi?
I did.
Did you like it?
Yeah, it was all right.
Okay.
I didn't love it, but I didn't hate it either. So thank you, Catherine.
Yeah, thank you.
I think that's the thing about book club. Like we really did decide to start this book club as a way to challenge ourselves as readers, but also like have a community of readers who all read different things, reading different things every month that maybe people wouldn't have picked up on their own. So even if they're a little bit, I say we border on the mainstream, right? We're not picking anything super obscure, I don't think. But do you want to get into our next?
Yes, our next text. And these are going to go up on the schedule link on the Discord, so you don't have to remember them. So for April, we're going to do something we've not had done before, and that is let you guys do a poll between two books. So we really wanted to do a romance in April because April, spring, love is in the air, but it's not February, so we're not a cliche. And the thing about romance is it's such a finicky genre, and I feel like so many people have so many like kind of prejudices going into it and things kind of holding them back. And so we are giving you guys the choice between two books, and we'll see which one wins. And the books you'll be choosing from are Forbidden by Beverly Jenkins and The Duchess Wars by Courtney Milan. So we will see which one of those wins for our April pick. And then May, we decided to go for a short story collection, which I guess isn't really a genre as much as it is a form, but I think it's interesting to do. And so we've picked The Paper Menagerie by Ken Liu, which I'm really excited about. I have read some of these stories already, and they're phenomenal.
I'm so excited.
Really, really good. The title story, The Paper Menagerie, is probably one of my favorite short stories ever. And then for June, why did I say it like I was Fred? June.
I thought you were just going to be saucy or something.
For June, we have North and South by Elizabeth Gaskell, which intimidates me. And we're doing this for classics, will be the genre here. I guess we should specify 19th century classics or whenever North and South was written. So yeah, I'm very excited about this one. Classics is definitely the area of like genres that I just do not read. Like even in high school, I never took English classes in college. All of my literature courses came from high school. And I just cheated. I didn't read them.
I just cheated. Amazing.
Just keeping it real. I wrote like a whole 25-page essay about what the play Othello revealed about gender roles in Elizabethan society, and I read not a single page of Othello.
Oh man, I was the same. I didn't take any lit in university at all, but I did a history degree, and so a lot of it was kind of like literature of a period would be secondary to learning about the period. So there was that, but I loved reading. Like I read extra Shakespeare in high school just because I loved it so much.
Boo, nerd.
Boo. I'm such a nerd. I'm such a nerd. I was talking to Rick last night about a fantasy book that I want to read, but it's set in China, in like a fantasy China. Can I just say this? Like I'm going to be talking. Oh gosh, it's I forget the name of the book. It's coming out in like June or July. Rick has requested like an advanced copy, and I have a galley. It's marketed as Mulan meets Song of Achilles, and I'm gonna die.
I have to know what it is now.
Oh gosh, it's a debut coming out.
She Who Became Sun.
Yes, that's the one.
Yeah, I know the one.
So my knowledge of Chinese history is basically non-existent, despite having a history degree, and so I showed pictures of my notes to Rick because I was talking to him about the book, and I'm like, I don't know enough about this, and I feel like I can't read a fantasy book set in China if I don't know Chinese history, which is like so dumb, but it's the way my brain works. I've started like a 48 lecture series that I do for fun at night on Chinese history. Why not, man? It's like a great courses series.
Okay, cool.
Yeah. So anyway, it's like such a sidebar, but I didn't read any. I love reading classics, but I haven't read like a ton of them. Mm-hmm. Like I've read, I guess, here's the thing. When you read publicly on the internet, there's a difference between like, I haven't read any classics compared to like other people who talk about books on the internet versus like the general population. I have read a lot of classics compared to probably the general population who doesn't read a ton, but
I was just reading
yeah, I'm reading
Amy's
through the
comment.
comments.
I like reading for fun, not reading books people force me to. Same. That was always my problem in high school. Like I was a voracious reader, like, but I just wanted to read what I wanted to read. I did not want to read Othello. I did not want to read Animal Farm. I did like Lord of the Flies. That was like the one book I was forced to read that I did love.
We didn't read that.
Oh, really?
No.
And I liked the Odyssey when we read it.
Didn't have to read that either.
Really?
Yeah, I don't think I ever had to read the Odyssey. I did a course on Greece, but it was like Greek politics in the 5th century BCE or something. So like it didn't come up. But yeah, it's funny. It's funny, Amy, about the not reading books because people force you to, and yet we are selecting books for a book club that you are voluntarily participating in. But I do this weird thing. Okay, so this is the problem that I have with TBRs on my channel, and also one of the weird things about book club is that you and I choose the books, and there are times where I feel resistant to reading the book that we have chosen because I have to.
Yeah,
like it's such a bizarre thing.
I don't know if I definitely feel that way, but I definitely kind of see where you're coming from because I've felt similar things like that before. But well, the difference between like this and like reading for school is like we're not grading you, and you know, there's no failure if you don't read it. You can totally DNF. Yeah, the Odyssey. What actually made the Odyssey really fun to read is that there was like some really old, super long movie that had been made from the Odyssey. I'm sure there's been several, and I can't remember what the exact adaptation was. But we would like read parts of the Odyssey and then watch the corresponding parts of the film adaptation, and it was just so good. Like
there is, I can't remember. It's the Iliad for sure, and I don't know if he did the Odyssey as well. But there are audio versions narrated by Dan Stevens, who played Matthew in Downton Abbey. And it is everything you've ever wanted in your life. Like, I want him to read all of my books to me forever. And I have the Iliad and the Odyssey. There's two. Get the Robert Fagles translations. They're bound beautifully, but also really readable. I have his for both the Iliad and the Odyssey. But yeah, I know. I have the same problem, Elise. I can't even tell myself what to do. I set TBRs. Actually, I gotta say, I've got to film after we finish this. After we finish wrapping this up, I've got a bunch of filming to do. And my first January TBR thing went so friggin' well. I'm like so pleased with myself. But yeah, it's going to see how long, we'll see how long that lasts. Cause I do the same thing.
February TBR?
Sorry?
Are you doing a February TBR?
I am. That's what I have to film today. I've got a giant stack that I'm staring at from here. And I'm like, I'm worried. But
yeah, I agree, Thomas, that school gives people PTSD for classics because, like, I can't remember what classic it was, but I read a classic fairly soon after I joined BookTube, and I was like really nervous about it. It ended up being really good. Like, I just think that school teaches you the idea that like you can't read it for enjoyment; you have to read it for some sort of like analytical reason, and that's just not true. Same with poetry. I'm convinced that the reason people don't love poetry is because school teaches you like.
I think that's what happened to a lot of people, a lot of Canadians with Margaret Atwood, right?
Really?
Like we get so much Atwood in school that like I feel like her reputation in the US and the UK is so different than in Canada. Like just her perception. Like I know a lot of people here who are just like, oh, Margaret Atwood, because they had to read it in school. Like it was forced on them, and they've never given her a second chance, kind of thing.
I wish we were cool enough that Margaret Atwood was forced on us in high school. I didn't know that Margaret Atwood existed until after I graduated college.
Yeah, it's because you're American.
Yeah, I had no idea. But I've only read 2 books by her. I read The Blind Assassin, and I read. We
were supposed to buddy read that, and I just didn't read it, and you did. I think so.
I think it was something else we were supposed to.
Oh, was it Alias Grace?
Okay, that was it. It was the one because I buddy read. The Blind Assassin with a friend of mine, and we loved it. And then I read Alias Grace. I think I had read Alias Grace before that, and that was Alias Grace is my favorite one by her.
I own a bunch of hers and haven't read them yet. They released these new, like, really stunning editions. Yeah, I'm the same, Amy Lynn. Like, I've read The Handmaid's Tale a couple of times now because I read it in high school by choice. It was on like I chose it from a list. It wasn't forced on me. But that was an interesting one to reread again later in life and just get completely different things out of it.
Is Amanda Gorban's the one who did the inaugural poem, Elise? I
Yeah,
cannot remember her name. Was that who it
she's
was?
on Gorman. She's on
Gorban.
like the bestseller list like
Yeah,
crazy now, like top of the
she's
best.
got,
That
I
was like
think,
such a
like
moment because
books.
can I just say I watched the inauguration. Like it was a work day for me, but I was working from home, and so I had my like work computer up, and I had like my other laptop up with the inauguration just running, and a lot of it I just kind of like was there for whatever. And she started speaking, and it was just like I stopped everything else I was doing. I'm just like mesmerized. She's so phenomenal.
I was there for Lady Gaga's Star Spangled Banner.
Oh, me too.
It
And
was
that dress,
so good. The big
so good.
dove.
The big like just the gold and like the dress from the back, which sounds like weird, but like it was tailored so beautifully.
Really good.
Yeah.
Yep. So I'm really looking forward to it. I think we'll have a fun time with it.
I think we're gonna have a fun time with a lot of these, like the romance ones.
I'm really excited about the romance. I have never really read the closest I've ever come to reading a romance novel is reading the Night Runner series by Lynn Llewellyn, which is like it's not like it's just not a romance. It is a fantasy
Right.
with a romantic plot.
Yeah.
Or I guess even Juliet Marillier might count as like closer to a romance. But even then, it's still a fantasy book with a big romantic plot. Like this is.
And romance as a genre has its own like conventions about what
Mhm.
kind of has to happen. Like what, and that's, I think that was one of the things that we struggled with choosing a book is that all romance books have that same plot progression. Like there is a way that romance sort of has to work. And I remember reading one time about how Harlequin as a publisher set that up, and they have like a rubric that their authors, or they used to, they might still have to follow, where you have to kind of hit these plot points in order to be published under that label. And so, yeah, it's hard to pick a book knowing that we could have almost picked anything. And yeah, right, Amy, Red, White, like I can't even. And we talked about doing a contemporary romance instead of a Regency, but I think with part of me was like, I kind of want to do something that's like Bridgerton, but is not Bridgerton, like that is older. And I have to say that Beverly Jenkins is set in the US and the Courtney Milan is set in England.
Okay.
So we'll have to, you guys can read the blurbs. We'll post the thing and post the voting and maybe leave the voting open for like a week or so everybody has a chance. But it's hard to pick a romance book because I think we literally could have picked anything and had the same kinds of discussions. Because I think a lot of things too in contemporary romance these days are things that are still apparent in Regency romance because we have modern writers writing Regency and they're just as like concerned about writing interesting characters who are smart and independent in a lot of ways. So I'm excited to get to it. I think there's going to be a lot of people who I don't know if anybody in book club reads romance.
Yeah, is there any
regularly.
like dedicated romance reader out there? Let us know, like either here or in the Discord, because I'd be interested to know. I think this is the one genre that all of us are kind of coming into with fairly blank slates.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I've read The Duchess War. It was probably one of the first romance books I've read. But I don't mind rereading it. I'll probably vote for the Jenkins, but like it honestly doesn't matter to me. It'd be interesting to have the conversation either way.
Yeah, this is exactly what I was thinking too, Elise, about the like excusing maybe things that happen in historical time periods because you can say, oh, it was the time period. That's exactly what have happened. But then being annoyed at characters who make the same decisions in contemporary. I feel that very strongly.
Yeah, and I think we did pick two authors who are writing more diverse and interesting romance. We're not reading I don't know, it's kind of got that slight I don't even want to make the comparison to Bridgerton. I think those are different things, but we didn't pick a Bridgerton book for obvious reasons too, I think. But yeah, Amy, do look them up. They're fun. Like one is about, I can't even remember what the Duchess War is about. I'm not even going to say. You guys look it up because I don't want to say it wrong. Yeah, honestly, Ron, we looked. Courtney Milan's a weird one. Her Twitter presence is a lot.
She's a fellow figure skating fan, so me and Jessica like her.
Yeah, she's a hardcore fan.
Okay.
Well, maybe romance. Yeah, I mean, I've read romance. I just haven't read like. I feel like people who read romance like read romance. You know.
Yeah.
Like that's all.
I love watching. There's a few like fairly dedicated romance booktubers out there who I enjoy doing or enjoy watching, and seeing the videos and including Instagram. There's a few bookstagram people I follow who are really into romance, and it's really interesting to see their perspectives.
Yeah, I think it'll be hard for me to not. Romance as a genre is the most like cookie cutter genre, I think, and it sounds like I'm saying it really negatively, and I don't mean it to be, but there are certain things that, again, you could pick any book and it would be similar. And so it'll be interesting to read one and see like how representative is it of the genre versus its own thing.
Yeah, I agree. Anyway, I'm very excited.
Yeah, I think they're going to be good picks.
Yes, Elise. I knew about Courtney Blonde before this video, but I also loved seeing the discussion from the Lindsay Ellis video as well. If you've not seen the ABO drama video from Lindsay Ellis, I guess it's 2 videos now. Genuinely, please, after you're done watching this, go watch it. It's the most hilarious, entertaining, and also informative thing. Have you seen this, Jessica?
I have not, no.
Oh my gosh, you have to watch it. It's about basically this copyright drama that happened from the fan fiction universe of this like very strange erotic romance genre in fan fiction. And it's hilarious and so entertaining, and also like it's almost like, I don't know, the mystery in itself, like trying to get to the core of it. It's so funny and entertaining. And Lindsay Ellis is just brilliant. So
I'll have to check it out. Yeah.
Yeah, you gotta watch it.
All right. Amazing.
It has a very graphic opening where she's reading from this very erotic fan fiction book. So just like be prepared that when the book opens up, or when the movie video, God, when the video opens up, it's just them reading this like insanely graphic porn, basically. So just be
I think
prepared.
that's the thing we need to say about romance in general is like, there is going to be explicit content in the romance book.
Yeah.
There's going to be explicit content. So if that is a thing you don't want to read, I don't think there is a way around it. I mean, you could skip over the scenes, I guess, and just imagine it fades to black, but
yeah,
it is explicit on the page in every romance book I've ever read.
Okay. That's fine with me.
It's fine with me too, but I just want to throw it out there for people who may not be as like, they're reading along and it's all like, oh, romance, and then it's like, and then they're nude and there's a lot of graphic descriptions.
I'm about to start a buddy read of Kushiel's Dart by Jacqueline Carey, which I had read about half of in the past, which I know that you love that book, but it's got like quite a bit of graphic content.
Yes.
So I'm kind of preparing myself for it.
Yeah.
Because I mean, like I read books with graphic content, but that one's like a lot. Like I remember like a lot.
It just doesn't pull punches. It's like it's not like, have you ever read romance scenes in other genres where you're like, I'm not exactly sure what's happening here in the room, but you have to make some educated guesses and assumptions? There is none of that in romance. It tells you what is happening where and with which body parts explicitly. And I think one of the things about romance books that readers talk about is how well handled the explicit scenes are, right? Like that is a make or break kind of part of the book.
And like the shaving incident that we're all got PTSD from.
The worst. Just
the worst.
I could picture, oh my God, I could picture Ashley's like reaction to it. Yeah. Yeah. Well handled. Yes, it's like a thing. Oh gosh, Amy, I've tried to forget it. I'm actively trying to forget about it.
Well, you're about to read the sequel of it at some point soon, so you have to
honestly, it's still I'm using it as a prop for my work laptop. I've got like 5 computers sitting around me now because I'm working from home, and I'm using Fires of Vengeance as a prop for my work laptop for when I have like video calls, so that it's up high enough.
We have to read it soon and let us know if there's any more sheathing.
Oh gosh, I think somebody's already DNF'd it or wished they had in Discord.
Dumb.
Yeah, see, the sequel's a bit of a struggle. I think I just need to pick it up and like make a decision, because I'm afraid to. And again, I do need something to hold up my computer, but I'm not like lacking in books in this room. I could return that one to the library.
Yeah. Yeah. I think you've got plenty of material. All right. Well, I'm looking forward to our picks. Do we have anything else we want to add before we head off? We've been on for about an hour.
I don't have much. I feel like, I mean, we've talked about the book of the month the least in this video of any video.
There's just not a ton to say. Let's just be honest.
Yeah, it was
got a
good.
cozy mystery. It's got an atmosphere. It was a great palate cleanser. I'm definitely reading the sequels.
Maybe what I'll do is set up another channel in Discord for the author, so that it doesn't matter which book you're reading. You can just kind of continue on for people that want to do that.
I'm definitely continuing on. Like next month, I've already got it requested at my library for the ebook, so I'm reading the next month.
Perfect. Okay, I'll try to remember to put that up. We'll put up the poll, so make sure you guys vote on which romance you want to read in April. And I will open up the channels for, a foreign country, which we are theoretically starting tomorrow.
Yes. I'm going to see if I can get the audiobook of that one.
Yeah, it's funny at the library, there's a lot, like the Morbid Taste for Bones I couldn't find on audio, and we lost our like omnibus edition, we lost our physical copy. It was just like the ebook was the only option I had, and that's a different reading experience for me always as well. But I'm gonna see what I can find on audio as well. But
all right, I'm looking forward to it.
Me too. Thanks, guys.
Thank you guys for coming. Appreciate it. All right, starting tomorrow. I'm probably gonna try and start tomorrow too. All right, guys.
I'm gonna start this tonight. We'll see.
Okay. All right. I'll see you guys. Have a good one.
Bye.
Stay safe, everybody. Bye.